Hello YouTube! So I went thrifting and I came across this, an old laptop, and if you can see here it says 50, that's 50 Danish crowns, so that's about $8. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. Not that this is modern or anything, it's actually a little more like vintage. This is about the year 2000, probably 2001. But it was a bit of a gamble because it did not come with a power supply and the battery was completely dead, so there was no way of testing it in the store. So let's have let's have a look at what it is. It's a Acer Travelmate. Let's see if we can find that. Acer Travelmate 200 series. Specifically, if we open it up, we'll see it says. If you can see that, Acer Travelmate 202T. So the official specs for this is a 5 GB hard drive, a Celeron 650 MHz processor, ATI, Rage Mobility graphics card, something like that. It should have 4 MB of video RAM, so not a whole lot, but 64 MB of RAM. That's the official specs anyway. This looks fairly standard. The screen is 800 by 600 in resolution, so not a lot. So let's have a look at what it has for external stuff. We have a floppy disk. We have volume control. We have mic in, and let's see, that's probably line in and headphone out. And this is, I'm not sure if that's anything. It just looks like a piece of plastic. Maybe there's room for an IR port there, but I don't think it has it. Just looks like a piece of black plastic. Then we have the power switch. We have two ports here for expansion cards. And there's something stuck in there. I haven't opened this up, so I don't know what that is, but something is in there. I don't know if you can see that. That looks a bit weird. Can unlock. Around the back we have a modem port, RJ11, and then what looks to be a an Ethernet port. Although the official specs for this that I found online did not mention built-in Ethernet, so maybe that's an option. VGA. 2 USB ports, so it's not that old, like we don't have USB at least. Then we have a parallel port, serial port, and this, I'm not sure if that's a PS2 connector or if it's S-Video. I think it's a PS2 connector. And around here we have power in and a CD-ROM, not DVD, CD. And here's the battery. Now, when I found it in the store, the battery is completely dead. So, and I had to try and power this on to figure out if it even worked. So what I did was, first of all, I pulled the battery. There's a tab down here that you release, and then you can pull out the battery. I couldn't find any schematics for this battery, so I'm not sure what's what here. But let's just try and zoom in here and have a closer look. So what I found was, we take the multimeter. It did actually have a tiny charger on it, like 1 volt, and it's supposed to be 9.6 nominal rating. But I found if I took my multimeter and then got it jammed into this port and this port, I did get a reading, and let's see if we can get all of this in shot. Now actually jamming it in there is a bit tough. Yeah, I can't get it in there now, of course. I'll have to do it off camera just to... Oops, that's not good. I think I broke it. Now it's up to 10 volts, so I have gotten this charged. And I actually broke the battery tap there. That's not good when I jammed it in. I don't know if you can see this. This is wiggling in the wind now. Anyway, this battery isn't worth much. It won't hold much charge. But what I did, first of all, I've tried just running some wires from my lab bench power supply into here and tried to see if it would take a charge, and it didn't really. It took like 50 milliamps for a while, but that's way too little considering this is a 400 milliamp battery at 10 volts. That would take days. So it wasn't really taking a charge, so I don't know if there's some logic, if there's a battery controller in here that needs a signal through one of these other pins to charge the battery. So I moved away from that idea. Let's see if we can get this bag in without breaking stuff after I've already broken the battery. Yes, it fit good. And something is actually rattling slightly around in there. I haven't noticed that till now. So, well, no power supply, dead battery. What can we do? Well, we have this port. That's the power port, but well, first of all, you can see there's a piece of plastic broken off here. No biggie. But if we look on the bottom, right here, you may be able to see that it says 19 volts, 3.16 amps, but it doesn't say anything about the polarity of that plug. But I did find that I had these laying around, and they actually fit this perfectly. But I didn't know the polarity yet. So when hunting online, I find some replacement battery supplies where they actually had the polarity written on them, and it's center positive. So I hooked that up. And then I turned on my power supply carefully. Now I have it set to what it needs right now, 19.5 volts, and it's drawing about 2 amps. So that seems perfect. Right now it's using those 2 amps to power the battery or charge the battery because it's not turned on. But if we go in here, and maybe the mic is noisy now because I have some issues where if I've got anything with a big transformer in it running, my mic picks up a lot of interference, which I can't. It's not enough for me to see it on the meter on the camera, the mic level meter, but you can definitely hear it in post-production. Oh yeah, so I hope it's not too bad. Anyway, here it is. Let's try flipping it on. And I can hear it going now. There we have Acer Travelmate. And it takes a while. It's not an SSD or anything. And oh fuck. Yeah, it's running Windows ME. That it is in fact doing. That's a thing that it does. Or otherwise known as the worst operating system in history. Honestly, I'm not sure why it got that bad of a rep, because I actually remember upgrading from Windows 98 to ME, and the thing is, there's not really any. Well, a few manufacturers didn't provide drivers. That could be an issue, but if you had the correct drivers and everything, it was fine. And as far as I know, the only real difference is that ME is capable of utilizing more memory efficiently than Windows 98. 98 has a problem really figuring out how to use memory above 128 megabytes, I think. If you have like a big game that uses all that memory in one big chunk, then it's not a problem. But if you're multitasking a lot, then it had some issues where it couldn't really figure that out. And ME should be better at that. That's the only difference that I really know of. Otherwise, they're pretty much comparable. And I think the main reason that Microsoft got a lot of shit for ME was because it was basically just 98, a service pack for that, pretty much. And they could just have, you know, just a way of making more money releasing ME. You know, you didn't really get a new operating system until XP, really, or well, it was 2000 if you ran that. I also did for a while. Anyway, it's up and running. Now I have already checked this out to make sure there wasn't anything like personal identification or incriminating on the desktop here. And I've looked through it a bit, and there's some personal pictures, nothing interesting. And yeah, it seems like whoever had this, what they used it for was looking at images. There's like 20 music tracks on there, like old 60s, 70s hits. And then it's been used for net banking. In fact, the Internet Explorer browser history is pretty much empty, but it has been used for net banking occasionally. So that's not really interesting. But what I did discover once I got into the operating system here, pressing the Windows key, nothing happens. Alt-Tab, Control, Alt-Delete. The keyboard is dead. That's unfortunate, of course. So we'll probably have to open this up. I will need to, open it up to clean it out. If it's full of dust, maybe I'll clean that out. Also, there's some greasy stuff up here and also down here on where that meets the base. So I'll definitely give it a good clean on the outside as well. Looking at it, it's probably not been used in the last 10 years. And the pictures on there is some old dudes. So I'm thinking it's probably somebody's dad or granddad's computer, and he's likely dead now, and it ended up in a thrift shop because they were cleaning out his old stuff. That seems like the most likely story here. Anyway, I also discovered it actually has been upgraded with RAM. It has 128 megabytes of RAM, which is a pretty decent amount for this kind of computer. It can be upgraded all the way to 512 megabytes. And actually looking at the specs, performance-wise, it should be pretty close to my first PC actually. That was an AMD Duron 600 megahertz. This is an Celeron 650 megahertz. It's got an 80 Rage something card that's not great. Probably do basic 3D acceleration, but nothing fancy. I had some shitty 2D 3D cards. The graphics are probably a tiny bit better in this. And 128 megabytes, yeah, I ran with that for a couple of years probably. So that's the main reason I bought it. This fits in pretty well with, you know, performance-wise with what I would have had as my first PC back 20 years ago, roughly. So yeah, so the keyboard isn't working, but we do have USB ports, so let's hope those work. So I'll go find a keyboard, and then we'll probably try popping in a game or something to see if if the CD drive works. I haven't tested that. Over here and down there there's the floppy drive. I don't have any floppies, I don't think, anymore, so I won't be testing that today. Maybe later when we try and repair. I think that will be a part 2. We'll repair the keyboard, we'll clean it up. We'll maybe replace the hard drive. It's a 5 gigabyte hard drive. Maybe replace it with something like a Combat compact flash solution could be an option. Yeah, but let me find a USB keyboard. So I plugged in this very dirty keyboard, so I'll keep it off camera. Just Logitech K120, cheap, dirty keyboard. But it seems to have registered over the USB. It's not working yet. It's installing drivers, apparently. So let's see if something happens. And then I have a selection of games that should work on Windows ME, but if they work with the, this requires like way more graphics card probably. This requires a higher resolution, so unless I put in a different screen, it won't work. So this keyboard is still not registered. Nope, it's still not doing anything. So maybe the keyboard is not the problem. Maybe the Windows installation is somehow fucked, because this does not seem to work, even though it seemed to register the drivers and everything. So that's a bit odd. Although it's still working, so it might not be done. Anyway, we have some Football Manager title. We have Populous. This is actually mint in box. It's not been unwrapped. Football Manager, which is a different Football Manager series. This is the EA Sports series, which I think is now Championship Manager. And this is, no, Championship Manager is something different. This is Football Manager from SI Games, Sports Interactive. That was what used to be known as Championship Manager. That's the good one. And we've got Heroes of Might and Magic Free Complete Edition. Very nice. Anyway, yeah, now the keyboard works. Excellent. So let's pop in something. Now, this is from 2006. I doubt this will work. First of all, if you look at the minimum specs, it requires a larger screen resolution. This is 800 by 600. That required 1024 times something. So let's look at this instead. This looks more promising, like Pentium 133 megahertz, 32 megabytes of RAM. That looks promising. So Heroes will probably work. Football Manager, the crap one. Yeah, let's go with that actually. That should work. Because this has all the expansion stuff that will probably take a while to install, I'm guessing. Whereas the Football Manager here should be a bit quicker. So let's, and this is the first time testing out the CD drive as well. So we'll see if it even works. Now I'll obviously also want to reinstall Windows on this. I'll probably drop it down to Windows 98 SE. Yeah. But I'm not sure if this boots from USB, and well, I don't have any floppies, so I can't start the installation from the floppy disk. It's only, I have a DVD burner, but I don't have any blank DVDs, and DVDs wouldn't work in this anyway. I need blank CDs, and those aren't something you can just go and pick up at the store anymore. They are, yeah, I'll have to go online and see if I can get some of those, if this doesn't boot from USB. But like I said, all that stuff, repairing the keyboard, reinstalling it, cleaning it, that will be a separate part. And maybe even make a third part where we can see if we can got that bad battery down there. It's down there. And put some lithium cells in it or something. That might be interesting. So let's see if this is doing anything. Oh, error in auto run. So it might, yeah, it seems like it sounds like it's struggling to read that disk, to be honest. Let's try that one more time. Oh, the disk might be scratched. I haven't checked this, tested this disk beforehand, so the disk might be the problem. Or the CD drive might be the problem. I simply don't know right now. But yeah, it's not reading that disk. Anyway, I'll just yeah. Close that. Can we open? Browse the directory instead and just go straight to setup. Maybe. Is there a setup program? There's editor, setup. .3D setup. I don't think that's it. Okay, one moment. Okay, so we're trying Heroes of Might and Magic instead. Now, I might not be able to run this either because it looks like there's supposed to be two discs in here, an install disk and a play disk, and I only got the install disk, so yeah. But it does show that the CD, damn, memory card full. This 4K footage takes up a lot of space. Anyway, now I'm installing Heroes of Might and Magic. The CD drive works. This is fine, so there's a problem with the disk on this one, it seems. But like I was saying, I might not be able to actually run this because it looks like there's supposed to be two disks in this, and there's only one. There's an install disk, but there's probably supposed to be a play disk as well. So we'll see if this I can even start this. That's the problem with buying used stuff, you know. If you're not very careful checking everything out, yeah, you might be screwed. Anyway, so it passes every test. So let's just go ahead and install it. Oh, installing something from a CD, that's been many years. That's just not something you do anymore. Well, you'll occasionally get like a driver CD with your stuff, with a motherboard or a graphics card or something, but that's just to get you up and running. You're not actually supposed to use that driver on there. You're supposed to go and update your shit from the internet. Right, but I mean, especially with a motherboard or a network card or something, it might not, if the driver isn't included in Windows, you can't get online and actually get the drivers. So yeah, I guess for that it's a good idea, but I do actually still have two optical drives in my desktop system, but that's only because I like to go like buying used games. I buy a lot of used movies and then I rip them to my Plex server. So that's the only reason I still have them. Otherwise, if I didn't do that, I would not have any use for them, and they would not be in my system. But anyway, I mean, this is just 425 megabytes. I think it said it would use up of the of the drive, and now I'm not sure if this is a progress bar just for this one file. No, it doesn't seem so. So okay, it's not taking too long, but it's also a 24-speed CD-ROM drive, I think. So it's not too slow. You know, it could be like an 4x or something, then it will take all day. But this, I think it's a 24x. So you know, this is a pretty nice system. You know, it's not so old that it's almost unbearably slow to do anything, but it's not new enough that it would be useful for anything either in a modern context. But I mean, I can run my old games on it. I have the serial port and especially the parallel port. I know you can get serial adapters for like USB to serial and stuff, so that's not a problem. But that parallel port, that's kind of hard to come by these days. So if I have a need for something that needs a parallel port, then I have a system for that as well. And I mean, it seems to be perfectly functional, except for the keyboard. And of course the battery is pretty bad, but that's to expect it. I will press the wish in the game updates. Well, we're not on the internet right now, so we can't do that. And it wants to restart my computer to install a game. That's yeah, that's also something you don't see anymore, really. You know, for drivers, yeah, your location will need to restart, but for software, that's quite rare, other than Windows updates themselves. Let's see if it's going to try and boot off the CD. Or be really stupid. No, good. Okay, so it's updating some configuration file. What the hell did the game installer do to my Windows configuration files? What the hell? This is kind of odd. Well, it did update the DirectX. That's probably it, otherwise it doesn't make sense. Yeah, and this is all in Danish, so don't expect you to be able to read it. Well, that's why I'm commentating. So now it's loading Windows. Still doing updates. System settings updating. Yeah, it would be nice with an SSD, but you probably can't put a modern SSD in here because it's probably not SATA. It's most likely IDE in there. So a compact flash card would probably be the easiest approach. And I might also max it out of RAM. If you max it out on RAM, you might be able to run Windows XP on this. Not terribly well, but it might be usable. 650 megahertz processor, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I definitely had more than that when I upgraded to Windows XP. But I did run Windows 2000 on something like this, so yeah. Possibilities. Or we could dual boot it into a bunch of different stuff. If we put a big, what's it called? So this fucked up, what? Active desktop recovery. Okay, so this game installation apparently fucked up this computer real good. Interesting. Let's see if we can run the game. Is it in here? Where would it be? 3U. Are those? No, it should be Ubisoft. Oh, there it is. So complete. If it's actually done installing, I'm not even sure. We'll see. But this is where I fear it'll prompt me for the play disk. Let's see if there's anything on the back about the number of discs that's supposed to be in here. Yeah, no. Not really. It does seem to boot. Oh, let's zoom in on this. Okay, this sound is sounding a bit. Oh no. Heroes 3, the Shadow of Death CD-ROM was not found. So yeah, but I can play multi-gamer, games hosted by another player, but I can't play the single player. Let's see. Yeah, it only allows me multiplayer. So that's too bad. Anyway, it proved that it works, other than the sound sounded really odd in that. So, I think that's it for now. Sometime in the future I will clean this up, try to fix the keyboard. At bare minimum, maybe try upgrading the battery at some point. And reinstalling Windows. Possibly onto something solid state based, like a compact flash card. Yeah, we'll see. But I'm pretty happy with this. Like I said, it was $8, and well, other than me needing to run it off my bench power supply, which is a bit janky. So we'll also need to figure out a power supply solution for this at some point. A better one. I did look up, they want like $50 for a power supply that's officially compatible with this. So we've got to see if I can't find something a bit cheaper. That seems a bit much when the system itself was $8. Yes, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Press that subscribe button, like button, whatever. I'll see you in the future.